Thank you, Madam Clerk. I want to welcome everyone to meeting number 4 of the Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs and International Development for Monday, February 7th, 2021. My name is Marty Morantz, Member of Parliament for Charleswood, St. James, Assiniboia, Headingley, and I am the Vice Chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee. I am chairing the meeting today as the Chair is not available for personal reasons. I think we'll get right into our witnesses this morning. Sorry for the wait. Mr. Grant, you are up and you have 5 minutes. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Je suis accompagné aujourd'hui.
I'm joined today by the Ambassador of Canada to Haiti, Sébastien Carrière, and I hope as well by the Director General for Central America and the Caribbean, Global Affairs Canada, Sylvia Zezerato. Mr. Chair, the geographic proximity, a common language, and a Haitian diaspora in Canada of more than 165,000 people explains the strong relationship that we have today with Haiti. Since the earthquake in 2010, Canada has contributed up to 1.8 billion Canadian dollars to Haiti, including humanitarian aid. Canada is the second largest bilateral donor after the United States in Haiti, with an annual budget in developmental aid of 89 million Canadian dollars in 2020-2021. This makes Haiti the largest recipient of Canadian aid in the Americas. In the United Nations, Canada chairs the Ad Hoc Advisory Committee of the Social and Economic Council on Haiti and is an active member of the Core Group on Haiti, made up of the UN, Germany, Brazil, Canada, Spain, the United States, France, the European Union, and the Organization of American States. Canada is also very active on Haitian issues within the Organization of American States, the OAS, as is shown by its participation in June 2021 in the Good Offices mission of the OAS, which took place in Haiti. As the members of the committee certainly know, the situation in Haiti is particularly complex. The country is facing multidimensional crises that continue to worsen and have been over the last years, and particularly over the last months. There is a juxtaposition of the political, security, humanitarian, social, and economic crises. The government is considered a fragile one, and the International Crisis Group, the ICG, has put it on its list of 10 countries in conflict that are to be monitored closely in 2022. It is therefore critical to keep an eye on this country.
The events of the last 6 to 8 months have exacerbated an already fragile situation in Haiti. Insecurity has increased as a result of clashes between gangs and kidnappings in Port-au-Prince. The assassination of President Jovenel Moïse has deepened the political crisis, as has collusion between gangs and political actors. The earthquake which struck the south of Haiti in August, the departure of 30,000 Haitian nationals from certain countries in the region, a fuel crisis, and corruption all point to the challenges the country now faces. Monsieur le Président, les Nations Unies.
Mr. Chair, the United Nations indicated last week that the humanitarian context currently is one of the most challenging periods in Haiti's history. It is estimated that 4.9 million people, 43% of the population, needs assistance and lives in a situation of food insecurity. The worsening humanitarian situation has direct impacts on the migratory movements from Haiti for all countries of the region. Now, there's the presence of the UN on the ground outside of the executing agencies is basically a political mission without armed presence, and the UN Integrated Office in Haiti, BINUH, will, in fact, its mandate will be over in July. Its renewal will be discussed over the next months in New York within the UN Security Council.
February 7th, a very significant date in Haiti. Since 1987, February 7th has been enshrined in the Haitian Constitution as both the beginning and end date of presidential terms. Indeed, President Moise's term would have ended today. Since his assassination last July, there have been attempts made to find a political agreement between the interim government of Prime Minister Ariel Henry and opposition and civil society groups in order to move towards organizing elections. Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Chair, recognizing the severity of the situation, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Canada chaired on the 21st of January an international ministerial conference on Haiti. As well as Prime Minister Henry, 27 ministers and representatives of partner countries and international organizations attended this meeting.
Mr. Assistant Deputy Minister Grant, we're going to have to ask you to wrap up as we need to move on to the questioning.
Very good, sir. If I could just make one more comment. At that ministerial conference, Minister Joly made it clear that the solutions going forward must be by and for Haitians. Canada announced during that ministerial meeting 9 new initiatives of $50 million, and we will also participate in a donors conference on February 16th. Canada has been clear to encourage all of the parties to find a way forward peacefully and politically out of this crisis. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
I thank you, Mr. Chair, and we're now available to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grant. I should properly introduce you. You are the Assistant Deputy Minister of the Americas, and we also have at the meeting Sebastian Carrier, the Ambassador of Canada to Haiti, and I understand we also have Sylvia Cesarado, Director General, Central America and the Caribbean at the meeting, all available to answer the committee's questions. And with that, we will move into round one. Mr. Ziad, you have 6 minutes. Please proceed. You have the floor.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the witnesses. Mr. Grant, I just want to begin where you started your question, talking about what Minister Joly have said, that any decisions when it comes to Haiti has to start by and for Haitians. On July 17, 2021, the core group, Ambassador of Germany, Brazil, Spain, United States, France, European Union, and United Nations Special Representative for Haiti expressed their support for Ariel Henry as interim Prime Minister of Haiti. And prior to that, Canada and the core group, they recognize Claude Joseph as interim Prime Minister. The question is, do you believe that what the Minister Joly's statement leads to the decision that Canada support a different interim prime minister than the our allies on the other side? There is a difference here on the position on this specific topic or specific issue, and I like to hear from you, and also probably from Mr. Carrier. What is exactly leading to Canada's position in that regard?
Thank you very much for the question. Indeed, I think if Ambassador Carrier could follow my comments, it would be great. I'll be brief. First and foremost, as I stated, Canada believes that the way forward in Haiti needs to be led by Haitians. We have been encouraging both the interim Prime Minister, Mr. Henry, as well as the civil society actors and opposition to come together and to reach an accord on the way forward. They do have a difference of opinions. Mr. Henry would like to move to elections very quickly. Some of the main civil society groups have indicated they would like to have a transition period of 2 years, but it is up to them to decide. Going back to last summer, clearly the tragedy of the assassination of President Moise did send Haiti into a political crisis. Just prior to his assassination, he had indicated that Mr. Henry would be nominated as Prime Minister. In the immediate aftermath, we, of course, indicated our ongoing support for Haiti and for Haitians. And then when the outgoing Prime Minister, Mr. Joseph, and Mr. Henry reached an agreement on a transition, Canada and its international partners reiterated our support for Haiti, Haitians, and the interim government going forward. But again, the way out of this political crisis, the way to get to political stability is through an agreement of all parties and to get to an elections so the constitutional order can be reinstated. Ambassador Carrier, would you like to add anything to my comments?
Maybe just to add that the timing of this meeting is actually excellent because today is February 7th, and that's the day that presidential mandates end and begin here in Haiti. So Ariel Henry, having been nominated by President Moise, that term, that mandate was going to end today. So we're now in a situation where everybody's sort of accusing everybody else of not being legitimate, which in my personal view is quite unproductive. And we're trying to get everyone to focus on finding solutions for the way forward.
The calls on investigation to the assassination of the president has been done by former Governor General of Canada. And that means if Canada to support that initiative, there got to be some financial support to investigation. Will you be able to brief us on where this is going? Is Canada going to put the money on the table for that, to push for that initiative? What is the government position on this as we speak?
Thank you very much. As you know, Canada has been a strong supporter of Haiti over the years, including in the security sector. To date, Canada has not received a specific request from the government of Haiti for either direct financial assistance for this investigation or on the judicial side. We stand ready to provide any judicial assistance that is requested. We do know that the government of Haiti has reached out to other governments, including the United States and Jamaica, and I believe those countries have provided that kind of assistance. As we work with our partners in looking at what Haiti needs going forward, clearly seeing how the international community can help bolster the justice sector is something we're definitely looking at. But in terms of the specifics on the investigation, there's been no formal request made to the government of Canada.
Monsieur Carrier, would you like to comment on this?
Only to add that Michael is right. There was a few suspects that were arrested in Jamaica and deported to the U.S. because there is no extradition treaty between Jamaica and Haiti. There's also a suspect in Turkey that Haiti is working to bring to Haiti. And also someone was arrested in DR next door in Dominican Republic. So it kind of seems like the walls are coming in, and most of these cases are being dealt with in a court of law in the United States.
So if our government support any initiative led by Haitian, and there's no formal request being received from the government there for Canada to participate in such an investigation process. Where's the ground for, let's say, for example, former Governor General to call on Canada's pushing in this direction? There is a ground there that for anyone to ask that kind of question to get some clarity over this. Would you be able to comment on that? Sorry,
Mr. Ziad, that is the end of the 6-minute round. Perhaps someone else will get to that question in a future round. Thank you. So, Mr. Dvorak, you have the floor. 6 minutes, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the members of the committee for welcoming me to the Standing Committee. I'd also like to acknowledge the witnesses who are appearing before us this morning. I'd first like to address my questions to Ambassador Carrier. I'd like to know, since when have you been appointed to Haiti, and what have your relationships been with Haiti before you took that position on? Thank you for the question. I was appointed in the fall, and I got here on October 5th. It's the third time that I've been working on Haiti. The last two times it had to do with the headquarters in Ottawa following the earthquake on January 12th. And I had been working on the crises that had followed the earthquake. I was responsible for governmental relations at the time, and then I was the assistant director for Haiti from 2013 to 2015. Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. So I understand that you started your position after the assassination of President Moise. And Mr. Grant just said it, the situation is critical. It's a multidimensional crisis. We're talking about kidnappings, corruption, and the politicians. Well, there's a lot going on in the country. Since you have arrived there, I imagine that you've traveled and you've met people. What is your reading of the situation in Haiti currently, of this multidimensional crisis? Well, I think that multidimensional is indeed the right word. There's the security aspect, which is very worrisome. 1,000 kidnappings last year. Most experts think that the number is even higher because a lot of the kidnappings are not reported. They're just settled in a couple of days between the criminals and the families themselves. And then there's the question of Martisan, which is a neighborhood. It's at the southwest of the capital. And it's the national road that gives access to the southern section of the country, and it's blocked by the gangs. So it's impossible to get through. And when there was the earthquake in the southern region in August, it made transporting humanitarian aid very difficult. In terms of the political crisis, well, it's February 7th. Well, I know there were agreements. I know from the outside, one could get the impression that it's the Montana group against Mr. Henry, and there's been a lot written in articles in the U.S. and in the newspapers, New York Times, Foreign Affairs, and so on. But there are other groups who are involved. There are other agreements, other political players as well. The Senate has 30 members, 10 of which are still in their position and holding on to their positions. There haven't been elections at the Senate for 5 years, and so the president, Joseph Humbert, was also involved in the situation, and the 9 other senators. So there's a multitude of agreements and political actors who are negotiating, and then there's political games, and of course that's to be expected, and everybody has their own position and reasons. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. And as you know, and Mr. Grant mentioned this, the 21st of January of last year, Canada, with Minister Joly, took a leadership role by bringing together 19 ministers of foreign affairs and other international organizations to show solidarity towards Haiti. And $50 million were announced. But Minister Joly made it very clear in her speech she would like to have a Haitian solution made by Haitians and for Haitians. And you said February 7th is a very important date in Haiti. And one may wonder, how can we come to one agreement? And are elections possible in Haiti given the context? It's very difficult. We are evaluating that in the current situation as of today, especially where security is concerned, it would be very difficult to have elections in the short term in Haiti. Now, if those elections will happen at the end of the year or in 2 years, that's part of internal politics, and I couldn't say. But I think it's fairly clear that there could not be elections in the short term. It's important to focus on a solution to settle this problem, and we think that the solution is to be found between the different players, the civil society, political players, and so on. Thank you. And In conclusion, Mr. Ambassador, could you please tell us what these agreements are? We've heard of Montana and others. Well, the three main ones, well, the September 11th, that's from Prime Minister Ariel Henry. And there's the Montana one that's been written a lot about in the U.S. And then there's the PEN agreement. This is an initiative by Joseph Lambert, the president of the Senate, and with other political actors. There was an agreement between Penn and Montana. An agreement, well, it was an agreement.
This round, Mr. DeBerg. Mr. Bergeron, you have the floor for 6 minutes.
Merci, monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank all of our witnesses for being here today. Thank you for freeing up your schedules to speak with us today and to talk to us about the situation in Haiti today that is of concern to all members of the committee, and we've made that a priority on our agenda for this committee. I'd also like to say that I am sorry that we couldn't have started sooner. We had to deal with various in-house issues, so thank you for your patience. If I may, Mr. Chair, I'd like to come right back to this question of security in Haiti. Given the number of disasters that have occurred in this in this country, unfortunately, we're talking about 95 gangs, and they operate throughout the territory. And they're cutting off the capital from a good chunk of the country. What was also recognized by Canada and the conference organized by the minister, since $50 million will be given to Haiti, I understand that a little more than $12 million will increase the national police in Haiti with training and improved efficiency. My question is simple. At the end of the 90s, in another lifetime, the Haitian police was being formed, and Canada sent armed forces and police officers to help stabilize the country and help with training for the national police in Haiti. A few decades later, we are where we are at now, and I had the opportunity to go to Haiti to see the work of our police officers and see the work of the National Haitian Police Force, which was budding. And so what do we think we can do more now? And what do we think we could do more efficiently now, given the situation that prevails a few decades later? Thank you for the question. I'm going to ask my colleague, Ms. Cesarato, to answer that one. Sylvia. Yes, thank you, Michael, and thank you for the question. Indeed, you noted that Canada is very active in areas of security and has been for a long time. And you know even more about that than me, I think. For over 10 years now, we've been helping to help with the National Police. And recently, during the meeting, as you mentioned, we have announced more support for the National Police Force. Now, it was for management to help with capacity within the police force, to help with managing the police force, including the integration of women within the National Police Force. We are also looking into how we can continue supporting the police academy, because this is a critical piece for training police officers. At the same time, we're also sending police officers, as you mentioned, from the RCMP or from the Sûreté du Québec, because of the common language, to offer their expertise either within the National Police Force or as part of the UN mission, which falls under the BINU integrated office. So Canada plays a very important role in reinforcing security. And what we're trying to do, and what we tried to do during the conference in January, is to have better coordination with funders in order to reinforce that security. So we're working with the United Nations to create a fund, a security fund that other countries can contribute to. It could then be used by the United Nations for implementing a national strategy on security, which would be negotiated with the government of Haiti. Thank you. Thank you very much. Very briefly, Danielle Foote from the U.S. insisted on the fact that political interventions from the U.S. in Haiti never worked. And I think that that's why we're saying that the solution must come from Haitians and be done by Haitians and not from the exterior, from outside. But if I come back to that, given the experience that we've already had, or that I've even had, could we not conclude that our efforts were in vain up until now? And what could we do better to succeed this time? If I may, Mr. Chair. Well, we agree that the solution should be by and for Haitians, and we encourage all parties to find a solution. As for the National Police Force in Haiti, we think that it's necessary to have coordination between the United Nations mission and the partners. And that's exactly what's being attempted with the new projects and with our participation in the United Nations.
Move on now to Ms. McPherson. You have the floor for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would also like to take the opportunity to thank our witnesses for joining us today and apologize for the delay in starting the study. What is happening in Haiti is, of course, extremely complex, and your expertise and sharing your perspectives is vital for this committee to understand the challenges facing the Haitian people. I would like to follow up a little bit on some of the questions that have been asked by my colleagues, you know, in terms of the core group and how the core group is working. Mr. Bergeron just brought up, of course, the previous special envoy for Haiti, Mr. Foote, and he said in his letter of resignation, in fact, that what our Haitian friends really want is the opportunity to chart their own course without international puppeteering and favored candidates, making it very clear that he felt that the core group had in fact overstepped. And you know, we've heard this from a number of different places, that there has been the impression that there is interference in what is happening in Haiti. And of course, we all should be believing in the idea that the solution for Haitians must come from Haitians, and that we must give Haitians the ability to select their own course, select their leadership, select their government. So I do just want to get a little bit of better understanding on how the core group works, and how the response, I guess, to those very clear calls from many different sources that the core group is once again involved in trying to pick some sort of leadership on behalf of the Haitian people instead of allowing those democratic processes to go forward.
Thanks very much. I'll respond, and then if possible, maybe Ambassador Carrier can follow, as the core group really plays out on the ground in Haiti amongst the ambassadors and representatives. First, to Mr. Foote's comments, well, I think his comments were directed towards the government of the United States, for the most part, a bit towards the core group. All I'll say is, and again, it does sound a bit like rhetoric, but it is something we've long espoused and continue to, and that is the only way forward are for Haitians themselves. Canada, the core group, anyone else cannot simply impose our views on the Haitian people. They must determine the way forward. I think in the summer, when the tragedy of the assassination took place, there was obviously a lot of confusion crises. And so when there was an agreement between the then Prime Minister Joseph and the person who had been nominated to be Prime Minister Henri as a way forward, the core group certainly said this is helpful for stability. We also made it clear at the time and since then that there needs to be a long-term solution. It needs to involve all parties, and we need to get to elections. I think the most recent meeting of that Minister Joly hosted was an opportunity, not because it was much more than just the core group, for many in the international community to say this quite loudly and to say it directly to Prime Minister Henri, that there needed to be an agreement amongst all of the parties. He needed to outreach to the civil society and the opposition to reach it. So we were pretty clear. But maybe, Sebastian, you could come in a little bit about the workings of the core group on the ground.
Well, and I'm sorry to interrupt. I have such limited
Sure.
time. So in terms of the elections going forward, I do just wonder, what is Canada doing to ensure, like, how are we working with the UN and the OAS? How are we making sure that this is in place, that the election can go forward, that we can actually have a Haitian selected democratic government put into power in Haiti?
Yeah, well, I would say, whether it's in the OAS or at the UN or bilaterally between ourselves and the interim government or the various civil society groups or opposition, we are clear that there needs to be this agreement going forward, and without it, there is no real chance of elections taking hold. There's a real debate, and it's an honest debate as to if there is an agreement, how quickly can elections happen? Sebastian provided his views earlier that doing it super fast is unlikely. The conditions on the ground are not in place. Prime Minister Henri would like to have it in a year. Some in civil society think it should be 2 years. That's for Haitians to decide. From a Canadian perspective, we do stand ready once that decision is made to help, whether it's through the United Nations or the OAS, to help establish the mechanics, to help with the electoral officials in Haiti in standing up elections, whether that's through financial resources or expertise.
And would we consider sending an observation mission to Haiti for that election?
This is something that Canada has done in the past. In the Americas, the OAS has a very strong reputation and experience in doing that, and Canada has supported those financially and with personnel. So I think it's something we would look at quite positively.
Now, Mr. Chair, I realize I have about 10 seconds. Is that correct?
Yes.
Could I just tack those onto my next round?
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Genuis, you have the floor for 5 minutes. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our witnesses. I really believe that advancing justice, looking at areas like police reform, should be a critical part of our work in international development, because so much flows from the rule of law in terms of people's ability to pursue opportunities for themselves. If security is not taken care of, it's much more difficult for them to do that. But if it is, then there's much else flows from that in terms of opportunity for investment and other actions. I want to probe the fact that clearly a substantial portion of our development assistance dollars are related to security, supporting police capacity. We see this with allies and partners as well. What is the nature of our engagement with policing? Are we talking about providing equipment? Are we talking about training? And is there a need for broader, deeper kind of root and branch reform, which we've seen in some countries where police officers are essentially replaced by new recruits who come in and bringing a broader, deeper culture change? What is required in terms of the kinds of reforms that will really meaningfully strengthen law enforcement in Haiti?
Sylvia, could I pass the floor to you for that one?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Michael, and thank you for your question. I wonder if I can just outline that, as Michael mentioned originally, we have the biggest international assistance programming in the Americas is in Haiti, and that's about 50 million per year in bilateral assistance. And we program across all pillars of our feminist international assistance policy, one aspect of which, of course, is inclusive governance. So under there, we are working to address insecurity, as you mentioned, and working with the PNH. It's a complex situation, but we are working closely with the management of the police itself and with the UN that have specialists on the ground that are able to analyze where the gaps are and where the needs are. Canada's assistance is in capacity building and mostly until recently with the academy. So standing up of the academy, recruiting, helping to recruit and train the new recruits. We're moving some of our programming now into the management structure of the police academy per se, so strengthening the capacities of the senior management of the police establishment to implement their own national security plan. But that's in close coordination with the UN and with other partners on the ground.
Okay, if I understood your response correctly, you're talking about programs of providing additional training to existing personnel rather than the kind of like I described, more dramatic police reforms that we've seen in countries like Georgia and Ukraine.
That is correct. We're hoping, however, that through the establishment of this security basket fund through the UN, that we could go a bit further on the reforms in conjunction with the UNDP, which is actually setting up this fund. But again, this has to be in coordination with the host government, with the Haitian government. These are reforms.
Yeah, of course you can't reform a police force without the agreement of the host government. But I would be curious for your opinion in terms of what's required here. Is providing additional training to the existing players sufficient, or is that let's say less effective than broader, deeper police reform?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's multidimensional. You have to attack it from several perspectives. One is certainly that the police there aren't enough policemen actually to deal with all the issues that they have to. So the academy will help to bring in new recruits. We know that other partners, international partners, are working with the PNH and the UN to establish vetting units, for instance, within the police itself.
Sorry, I wanted to get in one additional question time I have left. It does strike me that if there are fundamental culture problems in a police force, additional recruits may solve a problem, but not the core problem. Could you just comment quickly on some of the challenges we've seen around international adoption and family reunification coming out of Haiti? I've heard from many people who have connections to those situations. Any comments on the work being done in that area? And if we run out of time, if you could respond in writing, please.
Yeah, perhaps we will respond in writing.
We've just run out of time. Sure. But Madam Clerk, if I could ask you to follow up with a witness to get a response in writing for Mr. Genuis. Ms. Bendayan, you have the floor for 5 minutes. Please proceed.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, et un grand merci.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and a big thank you to Mr. Grant and Ambassador Carrier. Thank you for being with us today. I'd also like to acknowledge my colleague, Emmanuel Dubourg, MP for Bourassa, who's on the panel with us today, and he is also a very strong voice for the Canadian Haitian community within the federal government. So it's clear that the relationship between Canada and Haiti is very important. And I'm very proud of the support that Canada continues to offer. And this, of course, includes the $50 million that's been added to developmental aid announced a few weeks ago, and about $90 million every year, which means that Canada is the second largest donor to Haiti after the United States. But I think that we all can agree that Canada has an important role to play and that we should do more. The assassination of President Moise shocked the entire world, including our significant Haitian diaspora here in Canada and Quebec. It's about 143,000 people. And we also know that this meeting is happening today on a very auspicious date. The mandate of President Moise would have ended today, but that's not the case. Mr. Henry is the interim leader, and there's a major political crisis underway. About a month ago, in fact, Mr. Henry had to flee an attack during a ceremony. And we also all know that the solution has to come from Haitians. But given the current situation, I'd like to hear from our witnesses on how Canada can best support Haitians themselves. The $50 million in aid is very important, but how do we make sure that that money gets quickly to those on the ground to maximize its impact in order to support Haitians? Thank you. Thank you for the question. Perhaps I will respond, and then Sébastien and Sylvia can add their comments. Yes, we are the largest donor after the U.S. But we can't do anything alone. It's important to work with our partners and with the international organizations. In New York, Canada chairs a committee on the Economic Council. And with this committee, we're trying to improve the ways the UN works with international donors to Haiti. So this is the only solution, to work together. Sylvia or Sébastien? Yes, I could add something. Thank you, Michael, and thank you for your question. I think you highlighted it already. Haiti is in a very fragile situation. It is one of the poorest countries in the world, with socioeconomic indicators that are among the lowest in the Americas and even around the world. Our programming will help those who are the most vulnerable and those who are the most affected by the socioeconomic crisis that is underway in Haiti right now. So the recipients are the citizens of Haiti. Our programming includes all pillars of our commitment, and our implementation partners are mostly Canadian organizations, so NGOs, and international bodies, for example, bodies of the UN. Thank you. Ambassador, would you like to add anything? Well, to add to what my colleague said, yes, Canada's solidarity with Haitians is completely unwavering. And beyond assistance for development in this country, there are excellence pockets. So there are projects, economic projects that are happening without any outside help, and things are going very well. Pierre Léger in the south is the largest producer of the vetiver essential oil.
To move on to Mr. Bergeron, who has the floor for 2.5 minutes.
That's unfortunate, because it was very interesting what you started to say. We know that barely 1% of the Haitian population is vaccinated against, that is fully vaccinated against COVID-19, according to the information that the Government of Canada has. On a number of occasions, we have insisted that the government prioritize this. We know that it's the COVAX initiative through which most of this happens, but the federal government has made bilateral donations. We don't understand all of the conditions. It seems to be arbitrary. We're asking the government to prioritize Palestine, Haiti, and Taiwan for various reasons. And the one for Haiti, well, I think it's quite obvious for everyone. And as I said, the Government of Canada went ahead with bilateral donations without really understanding the criteria, including well, there was Egypt and Barbados and others, but not for Haiti. So what can explain that they haven't helped Haiti yet with vaccination? And yet the country is doing everything they can to get out of this situation. Isn't that a concrete way we could help them? Yes, thank you very much for the question. Of course, we are following very closely this situation on COVID in Haiti. Canada has already contributed $12 million to fighting COVID-19. As for the vaccines, I believe that there are studies on other countries that can contribute, but I don't have an answer. Well, in fact, we're working with the UN and our partners and with the Pan-American Organization on Health. Sylvia, can you add anything to that? Yes, thank you. Yes, I was going to add that we also contributed $50 million to this Pan-American organization that does programming in Haiti, especially on communications around vaccinations. That's a big one. And we've also reprofiled our programs that we have currently to add another $13 million for meeting the needs of the recipients of our projects. And that's in terms of personal protective equipment at the very beginning of the pandemic.
Ms. McPherson, you have the floor for 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just want to say that the questions on the vaccinations is very important to me, of course, a key priority for me. And I would just like to highlight, too, that the promises on vaccinations are not the same as the delivery on vaccinations, and just to keep that in mind. I have some questions for our guests today on the 50 million and how that is going to be allocated. So first of all, my first question is with regards to food security. So we do know that there is 12 million that has been allocated to the World Food Program for food security issues that are happening in Haiti right now. And I am wondering whether or not that is being seen as sufficient and whether or not that is going to deal with the scale of the issues that we have. If I could get some clarity on that piece, please.
Thank you very much. Maybe just briefly, the challenges in Haiti are quite extreme. And so for Canada, whether it's on an annual basis or an extraordinary year, we're looking at where can we make the most difference. For many years, we've been working on food security and in the health sector, and clearly the challenges remain. So I don't think anyone can say that we have all of the answers, but maybe Sebastien on the ground, can you perhaps give a bit of perspective of where the most effort and the most impact can be made?
Well, specifically on food security, to answer the member's question, the World Food Program is working on a program that's called the school canteens, cantines scolaires in French, and they're feeding upwards of 750,000 kids every day. And there's also a component of that makes them source locally, so from local farmers and so on. So that's very interesting. That aspect.
And my next question may actually be good for you, Mr. Ambassador, just so that I can get some more things in here. So there was also 17.48 million that was allocated to the sexual and reproductive health rights of the most vulnerable women and adolescents. And I'd love to know some more information about that project. And if you could also touch on whether or not these dollars have actually been sent and have been delivered, and if so, when, and if not, when. Sorry to do everything so fast.
I think I have about 30 seconds, so I think maybe a written response on the specifics of that project would be in order. Only to say that I visit projects, I can see myself through field visits, the aid actually getting delivered and being used to help Haitian women in this case who need it.
Sorry, that 50 million has been delivered then?
That specific 50 million that was announced 2 weeks ago. Some of those
I'm
projects
sorry, that
were
is
already
the
in the pipeline.
end of the round.
Just starting now.
Madam Clerk, if you would follow up with the Ambassador on our written answer to that question. Mr. Aboutiev, you have the floor for 5 minutes. Please proceed.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Chair. The interim Prime Minister Henry has committed to holding a referendum to modify the country's constitution by February 2022 and to organizing presidential and legislative elections earlier in 2022. Does the Canadian government believe that Haiti is in a position to hold free and fair presidential and legislative elections? Why and why not?
Thanks very much for the question. I think Ambassador Carrier mentioned earlier that at the present time, the situation is such that it would be very difficult for Haiti to hold elections. What is needed first is an agreement between the various parties on a way forward. There is a difference of opinions as to when general elections should be held. It's for Haitians to determine when that is best. When they determine a way forward, Canada and I believe international partners and organizations will be ready to support that. But perhaps, Sebastien, on the specifics in terms of the timeline in 2022.
I mean, it's an excellent question. So, beyond the security situation, there's a vast debate in the country amongst political scientists and constitutional experts that are asking themselves, well, should you have a referendum to reform the constitution if you're not elected, with a mandate to change the constitution? And, as with every political issue, there are people on both sides making arguments that contradict each other. The Prime Minister, the interim Prime Minister, Ariane Henry, is making a speech actually this afternoon at 3:30. He's addressing the nation. We'll see if the referendum comes up. It's been coming up less, I would say, publicly in the debate. So maybe that's a sign that he is abandoning it. But we'll just have to see what the intentions are and what the week will bring. And what I hope today is very calm. I mean, there are usually demonstrations on the 7th of February. Today it's extremely calm out there. It's like a statutory holiday. There's absolutely nothing happening, which is good. But my understanding is that negotiations between the various accords will continue. Montana Group made a letter public last week in which they invite the Prime Minister to a dialogue. The Prime Minister said he would answer that letter tomorrow. So we'll see what that brings. I'm sure there'll be something about that in his address to the nation at 3:30 this afternoon as well.
As political debates as such could take months and months and could be sometimes happen in short or sooner than people expect it to be. And either way, what do you need on the ground, Monsieur Carrier? As far as, is there a roadmap of such? I mean, time is always an essence. And the situation is always demanding because the unrest hasn't been new to a country like Haiti. It's been there for a long, long time. In addition to disasters of all kinds, natural disasters and stuff like that. So the country been very, very unfortunate as far as the overall situation on all levels. That may push the fact or the conversation to take place quicker and to have some reasoning on the side, on the ground, to be able to get out of this ASAP. So what do you need on the floor or on the ground there? Is there anything that we need to know also ahead of the speech of the Prime Minister?
Well, what I would say is there's a lot of fatigue out there amongst the population with the political process. I mean, some Haitian friends are even telling me in private, let them all go away and we'll just manage this ourselves. So that's how much people are fed up. There's a real sense of insecurity. Every Haitian I know knows somebody who's been kidnapped and thinks they're next, and that is not something that is not a nice sort of Damocles to live under. But I think what we need is patience. I think we need to accept that Haitian politics has its own rhythm, and we need to make sure that our own impatience as foreigner doesn't take the better of us, and let them chart a path forward together. Dates are important. February 7th is an important date, and it can be seen as a milestone where you try to negotiate something in advance of. But tomorrow is the 8th, and that's also a good day for a political accord. So the fact that it's not settled today, to me, doesn't matter as much as the dialogue
That is
is
the
ongoing.
end of the round. If you were almost finished your thought, could you finish it, Ambassador? You're
I think
good?
I was done.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, next round is Mr. Hassi. You have the floor for 5 minutes. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Allow me to also thank all the witnesses for their very helpful testimony. I think what we have all heard so far is that Canada has been incredibly active on a bilateral basis, as well as in the context of multilateral deliberations. So that having been said, given our active role, and given what Mr. Grant referred to as the multidimensional crises that are unfolding in Haiti, I was wondering if Mr. Grant and Mr. Carrier could perhaps tell us or inform us what we would like to see other partner countries address at this particular point, given the numerous challenges on the ground in Haiti.
Thanks very much for the question. I think the first thing that would come to mind is actually what we saw a couple of weeks ago. It's been quite a while since we've had a broad international meeting on Haiti. Yes, there's the core group. Yes, there are some bodies in the UN. But that meeting brought together quite a number of partners beyond the norm. And I think that was quite impressive to see and important. I think important for, for Haitians first and foremost, that they saw that the international community is engaged. I think going forward, and the meeting in January is important. There's another one coming up. It's actually organized by Haiti and the UN, looking at the humanitarian assistance that's needed. I think countries need to step up. The average, contributions for Haiti, over the last few years has really fallen well short of what's needed. There are some donors that still maintain a high level. Canada is one of them. I think more donors need to step up. The other thing is what we have also seen, and the meeting on the 21st was a good example, countries of the region are really playing a much more active role. And I think that's positive. Dominican Republic's a great example. CARICOM as an organization and individual members, I think that's positive. So more of that, I think, would be helpful.
Thank you. Now, my second question is, we have heard repeatedly today that it's important that the solution be provided by Haitians. And I should say that it is a great pleasure to have Mr. Dubourg amongst us today. He has been a font of knowledge on developments in Haiti. Now, for the purposes of making sure that we're making the most of the resources we have in this country and that we are hearing from the diaspora here in Canada, what are the mechanisms that are available?
Well, I think as a foreign ministry, first and foremost, global affairs is always open to hearing from Canadians on foreign policy priorities, whether it comes in at officials or at the political level. And I think actually Ambassador Carrier in Port-au-Prince is probably on the front line of a lot of those interactions. So maybe Sebastien, you want to add some points?
Yes, well, specifically on the diaspora, I grew up in Montreal, surrounded by Haitians. I have a Haitian uncle, a Haitian best friend, even a Haitian father-in-law at some point. But all that to say that, one thing we can say about our diaspora, our Haitian diaspora, is that they're not shy. So they reach out directly and indirectly at all times. And it's good. It's very good to hear from them. And what I'm getting from them is frankly the same thing. Same kind of vibe I'm getting from this committee is that, across party lines, interest in Haitian solutions, interest in supporting such Haitian solutions. I have to say, the meeting a few weeks ago was quite a sight to be seen, where you had 20-something foreign ministers from a very diverse group, all sitting around the table, telling the Haitian people and its government that we're ready to help once they figured out what they want to do. So the international community is very well disposed to accompany Haiti on its path back to democracy.
Thank you very much. I think I only have 10 seconds remaining, but I will cede the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. That brings us to the end of our meeting. It being 12:58, I want to thank our witnesses, Ambassador Carrier, thank you very much. Mr. Grant and Ms. Cesarato, thank you very much. It's been a very interesting round of questions and answers, so I thank you all for your testimony today. And with that, if there are no other issues that members of the committee would like to raise, I call this meeting adjourned.
Au revoir. Bye bye. Merci
Thank you.
à tous.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye. Thank you all.